NASCAR fined Ty Majeski for going to vote and missing media day. Are we about to get a Days of Thunder sequel? Plus, Corey Heim back in the Truck Series officially in 2025. Welcome back to Break Hard. I'm Matt. Before we get into the news, I think it's very cool that Martin Truex Jr. is running a throwback paint scheme this weekend that is very similar to what he made his first ever NASCAR Cup Series start in all the way back in 2004. If you missed it, his 19 car this weekend will be painted up very similar to the same car that he raced back in 2004 when he made his first start in the Cup Series for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. And it's cool to see that trend sort of continue on. We saw Dale Jr., of course, get to race his old DEI paint scheme in his last ever NASCAR Cup Series start. For Martin, it's not going to be his last ever NASCAR Cup Series start, but it will be his last as a full-time driver. So I'm excited to see that the partners came together. Joe Gibbs Racing, Martin Truex Jr., Bass Pro Shops all came together to allow this to happen. And it's pretty cool when you get to pay tribute like that. Getting into today's news, though, NASCAR has fined Ty Majeski $12,500 for missing media days on Tuesday because he was in Wisconsin voting, like millions of other Americans did. Now, it's an unfortunate situation. I think it's grabbing a lot of headlines, potentially unfairly, because I think NASCAR will ultimately end up doing the right thing in this scenario, because the press coming out of this, it would be bad. If you're like, hey, man, $12,500 fine for going to vote and exercising, your right in a democracy to, have your voice be heard, or at least through the ballot. So I think that NASCAR will ultimately end up repealing that penalty and making him not have to pay that $12,500, which is a substantial amount of money too, considering what the purse is for the Truck Series. That's like finishing 10th in the Truck Series is what his fine was, and that sucks for Ty because that's a big fine, especially when he was just going up to vote. And his explanation when he talked about it on Thursday in Phoenix for media days at the track said that, it's an unfortunate situation because he didn't know he was going to be in the championship four. He had made plans to travel back to Wisconsin, his home state, to be able to cast his ballot. He said that he's always been an in-person voting type of person. He's never had an absentee ballot. And I think everybody can kind of understand that. You can get your absentee ballot, you can go vote in person. But if you didn't know you're going to be in the Champ 4, then you didn't know this was going to be a conflict at the time. Ultimately, I think NASCAR ends up making the right decision here and won't enforce that penalty on him, and we can all just move on and focus on the championship race this weekend, where Ty Majeski has a very good shot to win his first ever NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series title. He, Corey Heim, and Christian Eckes all led a substantial amount of laps last year in this race, and Eckes went on to win the race. He wasn't in the championship. This year, that is different. He is in the Final Four. You have Corey Heim as well, Ty Majeski, and Grant Enfinger. Enfinger finished sixth last year. The other three led a decent amount of laps. It could be a really good four-way fight on Friday night when the trucks take the green flag and ultimately the checker flag on the 2024 season, and we'll find out who our champion is. But for now, Ty Majeski was fined $12,500. He is appealing, and ultimately, I think everybody will come to their senses in this situation and sort of let that penalty go. If you like Days of Thunder, well, I have good news for you, because it sounds like Tom Cruise might be looking for a new love interest and real-world wife, because Days of Thunder, the sequel, is apparently in talks with Paramount. Tom Cruise, of course, is coming off the success of Top Gun Maverick, the sequel to Top Gun. Everybody loved that. It was universally, everyone was like, you got to go to the theater and experience this. It was a lot of fun. People saw it in IMAX. People saw it multiple times. And now Days of Thunder is a cult classic. It made like $157 million globally at the box office, had a production budget of like $60 million. So it was successful, but it wasn't like this world beater. People weren't just absolutely amazed at the performance of this movie, but it has become a cult classic since its release in 1990. We, of course, still talk about it, still have throwback schemes to it today. We've made documentaries about it and seen the Hendrick Motorsports connection and Tom Cruise in the car, and Kyle Busch, of course, is Rowdy Busch, and he runs the 51, well, used to, and had the throwbacks on it. So there's still a heavy presence of Days of Thunder in NASCAR 34 years after this movie was released, and right now would be a perfect time for a sequel to come out as NASCAR continues its upward trajectory and as motorsports continues this bit of a renaissance that we've seen, at least in North America and probably globally even at that. Having a big budget full-length picture would be huge for NASCAR, and something that's not like Talladega Nights. Yeah, Talladega Nights was funny. It was fine, right? I think a lot of people probably enjoyed it. I can sit back and laugh at it because there's a lot of stereotypes that are absolutely true with it. Days of Thunder, don't get me wrong, that is not a great representation of how racing is. I mean, they've hit everything, they shift multiple times, they're at different racetracks at other times, not as bad as Talladega Nights, but for the most part, it's not the best, racing movie we've ever seen. Better than Driven, which isn't that hard. The bar was set pretty low. But having a new movie would be interesting. I don't know what the plot would be. Like, is Cole Trickle going to come out of retirement and help mentor a young driver like he's, I don't know, Sylvester Stallone in Driven, or Brad Pitt in the Formula One movie, which is just Driven, but in Formula One, as much as people don't want to admit that? Or is he going to become a car owner? I mean, heck, is Randy Quaid going to come back and continue to be the car owner? I know he's stuck up in Canada, or at least he was, because he thought the U.S. government wanted to arrest him. The government's like, we don't care what Randy Quaid does. If he wants to come back down and be normal like his brother Dennis, and have at it. If he wants to live in Canada, we don't really care. And he's up there like, they got to come get me, doing Independence Day, and being Russ up there probably did a number on his brain. Regardless, having Days of Thunder, a sequel, would be really good for the sport. I know we talk about wanting NASCAR to be in, more movies or more shows or something along those lines. And sometimes they have good projects. Obviously, NASCAR Full Speed on Netflix is like a great docuseries. That's exactly what fans wanted. The NASCAR Netflix comedy with Kevin James, not really everybody's cup of tea, probably not what most people wanted. A full-length movie, that being, Days of Thunder with big star power behind it, could be really good for the sport, could really help NASCAR kind of bump up its popularity and at least bring more eyes to the sport, especially if they get the right people involved. We've seen really good racing movies over the last few years, Ford versus Ferrari. The Ferrari movie with Adam Driver, not great. You also had Rush, really well done there. And then, of course, you have the Formula One movie coming out next year, which has a really big budget. Will it be good? Who knows? But at least it's going to be really well shot. So I think that's a good thing. And then adding NASCAR to the fray would be even better on top of that, at least for the sport. So I'm interested to see how far this goes. There was talks that Paramount was trying to make a Days of Thunder series for Paramount Plus, and Tom Cruise nixed that immediately. It's like, absolutely not. We're not doing that. So I'm happy that he wants to do a big budget movie. He's not getting any younger, so it's going to have to happen sooner rather than later. And hopefully it happens before Mission Impossible 9 or whatever the next project is that's going to come out. So wait and see how it goes, but I'm happy that they're at least having conversations. Corey Heim is back in the Truck Series officially in 2025. And when I saw the announcement on Thursday, I was like, wasn't that already announced? I guess it wasn't officially announced yet, but we just all kind of knew that was going to happen and had been hearing that for a while. So Corey Heim back in the Truck Series again for a third full-time season and 55 starts in the Truck Series. He has 11 race wins, 42 top 10 finishes, wildly consistent. Probably should have won the championship in 2023 if he didn't have Carson Hocevar out there doing Carson Hocevar things, which now he's just doing those things in the Cup Series. Hopefully it doesn't affect the championship battle this weekend, but who even knows at this point. For Heim, yeah, I think everybody knows that he should be moving up. He should probably be on the Cup grid in 2025. There really isn't a development reason why he should still be in the Truck Series. The guy is a 5-star prospect. We said that multiple times. Blue chip, can't miss. Put him in a Cup car. Let's see what he can do on a full-time basis. And instead, he's running the Truck Series again, which we've talked about this multiple times. He, of course, has that Toyota Racing Development deal. They don't have anywhere to put him on the Cup side. 2311 Racing is full. Legacy Motor Club, not a place where he's going to end up at, despite what the rumors were, where they're saying John Hunter Nemechek's going to lose his ride and Corey Heim was going to take it. Those ones that floated around over the last few weeks, that was just never going to happen. And now there's, of course, no chance he ever races at Joe Gibbs Racing. He won't be in a Joe Gibbs Xfinity car. He won't be in a Joe Gibbs Cup car. He and Ty Gibbs do not get along together. And you don't want your fab shop having to rebuild race cars after every single weekend. Obviously, he ran a select amount of races for Sam Hunt Racing in 2024. Expect him to do that in 2025 as well, as Toyota continues to try to find a place to put him. But if they're not careful, eventually they're going to lose Corey Heim. And I know there are a ton of teams in the Cup Series that would absolutely be willing to make a spot for a guy like Corey Heim. There's tons of Xfinity teams that would love to make a spot with him, assuming he brings budget. Along with him. That's kind of Corey Heim's holdup right now, though. All of his funding is tied to Toyota Racing Development. He's not a guy that's bringing a big time check with him. So that's a bit of the reason why he's remaining in the Truck Series, because there's really nowhere else for him to go at the moment with the contract that he has and the partners that he has. So Corey Heim back in the Truck Series next year. Listen, if the Truck Series competitors don't step it up with Eckes and some of the other guys leaving, he could go on like a Jesse Love ARCA run in 2023 when he won 10 of 20 races. Like, obviously, Lane Riggs will be back next year. Roger Carruth will be back. There are some contenders. Whoever gets in that 19 truck, especially if it's a Cup guy, could be, a contender as well. But man, Corey Heim in 2025 is really setting up to be his year to sort of just dominate the Truck Series and then be like, somebody come get me. Somebody bring me up to any other series. Let him get up there and try to see what he can do, because I think the kid is ultra talented, but he will be back in the Truck Series next season. Obviously, looking forward to this weekend. Friday night, we had the Truck Series Championship race on FS1. Saturday, we have the Xfinity Series Championship race on the CW. And then Sunday at 3 o'clock, or a little after 3 o'clock, on NBC, Network NBC, you have the NASCAR Cup Series Championship race. It all comes down to this final weekend. I have to wait and see how it goes. Tomorrow, I think I'll probably pick my 3 champions, and we have to go through the tier list as well tomorrow. So, like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok at BreakHard, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at BreakHardBlog.